This is Jamie Magritte. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card. And first I'm going to show you how I made the stamp to do this background. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is bring in my Stampin' Cut Emboss machine. I'm going to bring in a piece of children's fun foam. And it doesn't have to be in perfect condition because all these texture in here just adds to the stamp. I'm going to put in plate number 1, my cutting plate. I'm going to put my fun foam on there. And I'm going to use this die. It's the second from the smallest of the deckled rectangles. Actually, don't need quite this much foam, so let me trim this down. Just make it easier. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and place this on here. This is longer than it needs to be, but we'll adjust it afterwards. Okay, so we'll put this plate on and we're going to run it through. And even though this is a thick material, it cuts it with one pass. See, it pops it right out. Okay, so now I'm going to put it back in here. Let's put it this way this time. And then we're going to move this down to the size that we want it to be. And you can do it this way if you want to see and make sure it's in the grooves. So let's go ahead and do that. I think about there. Oops, moved. Let's try that again. There we go. Put the top plate on. And run it through. Okay, so you end up with that. You can use either one of them. I just took my scissors and trimmed off these little long tails. Okay, then I took a glue dot. I don't know if you can see it. A couple glue dots, and I adhered it to my block. Okay, so that's how I made my stamp for the background. Oh, we're not done with the machine. Okay. Let's bring that back in. Because I also need to die cut a few flowers. There's this die here. And that's from the Seasonal Branches dies. Okay. I'm not using the stamp set, just this die. Okay, so go back here. This is just a scrap of white. I'm going to do it this way because it goes in a little better that way. Okay, I got one that came out. The other two didn't, so I'm just going to drop it. And they pop right out. Okay, so I've got those. Let's go ahead and put this away so I don't lose it. Alright, and now we're done with the die cut machine. Okay, now I'm going to bring in a blending brush. This is just a makeup one, but you can use any one you want. A finger dauber would work fine. And I'm going to use Bubble Bath ink. Can't see, so let me bring in my foam mat so you can actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to use Bubble Bath ink. I'm going to put a little ink onto my brush, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of ink on the ends of these flowers softly. If I want a little bit more on the tips, then I'm just gonna run that tip right into the pad. See how it gives it a little bit of a darker edge? Go ahead and do that. Dries fairly fast. Okay, one more. You could do this any color you wanted. It just shows this nice soft pink color. Dip the corners in. Oops, that one I got a little too much, so I'm just gonna come in with my rag and wipe it off a little bit. Come back in with the blending brush and blend it out just a little, but it'll work just fine. So we're done with that ink pad. Okay, now for consumables, other than that white scrap paper, I have my card base. This time I did the tall stand-up one, so it's 4 1/4 by 11, scored and folded at 5 1/2. I have a piece of bubble gum, which is 2 3/4 by 5 1/2, and this one we're going to emboss. I have a piece of black, which is 2 5/8 by 5 3/8, and a piece of white, which is 2 1/2 by 5 1/4. And this is not the right size. Yep, I did it 2 1/4. So I will be right back. Okay, that one should work. Yep. 2 1/2 by 5 1/4. Okay. And I forgot my embossing folder. Until I haven't done a video in a couple weeks. I'm using the Time Torn type. I'm going to run this through the embossing folder. I'm going to make sure it's going this way, because there are words in here that are, some of them are readable. If you have it going the other way, they would be sideways. Go ahead and run this through my machine real fast. I should have had that done beforehand, but I forgot. Okay, so there's that. All right. You're also going to need 14 inches of ribbon. Tie your bow on one end, clip it off, and this other piece is 7 inches. It's about 7 inches for each piece. Okay, so let's go ahead and stamp on this one. The other stamp set that I'm using is Lighting the Way. I'm using this stamp here and the sentiment, "You are all kinds of wonderful." Okay, so let's bring in our homemade stamp. I'm going to use Smoky Slate and Memento ink. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ink this up just like you do any other stamp. Just tap lightly, and it's okay if it has a little bit of baldness to it, because it just adds to the appearance. But make it as solid as you want it. Okay, go ahead and stamp it. It's going to be a lot darker than it until it dries down, it dries back. Okay, then I'm going to turn my stamp and I'm going to do another one just below it. If they're not perfectly lined up, that's okay too. And let's do another one here. Okay, so we're done with the smoky slate ink. We'll bring in our memento. We're going to stamp this image right over the top of that. Sync that up well. I'm going to stamp it right over that image. Perfect. Okay, and I'm going to take my sentiment. I'm going to stamp it down in this area. The first one I stamped it way down here in the bottom. I'm wondering if I want to put it up a little bit. I'll go ahead and do it the same. Try not to move it. Very nice. Alright. So now we can put this together. We've got all of our elements. I'm going to start with this piece. This is going to go here. I'm going to do a dry fit so you can see. This is going to get mounted to here, so let's go ahead and do that. There's not going to be much of a border. Okay. We're going to dry fit this here so we can see where we want to put our ribbon. It's about an inch from the edge, and come in with some glue dots. Put a glue dot on the back of each end of this ribbon. And this is the gingham black and white check ribbon. Okay, so let's move this. Here, wrap it around the back. You could use tape if you want. Trying to make sure it's straight. Okay, now let's go ahead and adhere this to the front of the card. Oh, I forgot to check that I did it backwards. My words are upside down. I'm glad I caught it. Unhook this. I did it the last time too. I didn't even realize it till I had the card together and I had to take it apart. Or I couldn't figure out why it didn't fit together right. Right there. Okay. Some glue on the back, right over my ribbon, help hold it down, and this is going to go over on this side here, all the way over. Now this is a tiny bit smaller because my card must be a little bit bigger, so I'm just making sure the spacing on the edges exactly is the same all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and put dimensionals on the back of this. Those backs off. being stubborn. Okay, this is going to go over here. Now this one's going to have a little bit of a border all the way around it. I gave it a little bit larger border here. Okay, now for our flowers, I'm going to bring them in and I'm going to just lightly curl up these edges, these ends a little bit. You can do it with your bone folder, but you don't really need to. Just curling those ends up just a little bit. Okay, then we'll use a glue dot on the back of each one. Okay, I'm going to put one up here. And I'm going to put a couple over here. It's a little bit higher. Okay, and to finish these off, I've got some, they're like iridescent-y sequins. I think they're out of a paper pumpkin. They've got like a pink hue to them. Whatever sequins or gems you want to use. Okay, then I'm going to come back with the glue dot. I'm going to put a glue dot on the back of my bow. Put that over here. And I'm going to come in with another glue dot. I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool. I'm going to roll it off with that, and I'm going to tuck it underneath my ribbon here so it sticks down. There you go. There's a card we just made together. Here's the one I did previously. So each one will be a little bit different depending on where your stamping is. Well, thank you so much for joining me today at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper. Bye everybody. Have a great day.